will come to order. Please rise, pledge allegiance.
First, I want to send condolences to Miss Lula Stallings' family, who was a very active member in the city of Hammond, precinct committee woman, and did a lot of civic organizations throughout the city. So my condolences goes out to her family in their time of bereavement. Heavenly Father, we just come before saying thank you, Lord, for another day. We ask that you guide us and direct us, Lord, so we can do the job that's set before us. We ask for all these blessings in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Harmon, roll call vote.
Markovich. Spitali. Benez. Here. Kalwinski.
Here.
Salinas.
Here.
Higgs.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Hinojosa.
Here.
Opinker.
Here. Eight present, one absent. Number 3, reading of minutes.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
make a motion to accept the minutes from the May 14, 2012 meeting. So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Kolwinski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes passed. Number 4, approval of claims.
Councilman Markovich, Mr. President, Councilman Markovich isn't here. However, I will attempt to get this job that's set before me completed here.
All right, Councilman Higgs.
Make a motion that we accept claims dated May 26, 2012 through May 23, 2012 for council meetings scheduled on May 30th, starting with claim 2165 and ending in claim number 2459 with a total amount of the claim $6,698,839.01. I so move, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Higgs, second by Councilman Spitali to accept the claims. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I want to amend in 2 claims. I guess I need numbers for these. Get a number. $2460 will be for Councilman Higgs reimbursement for the conference from May 13th to the 23rd for $340.44. That'll be claim 2460, and 2461 would be amending in 2461 for Councilman Salinas for reimbursement of $377.93 for the conference from May 19th to 23rd, 2012. I so move. Second.
It's been motion by Councilman Higgs, second by Councilman Hinojosa on the amended claims. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on the amended claims? Carmen, roll call vote on the amended claims.
Markovich. Spitali.
Yes.
Benez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Hinojosa,
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes. Amended claims passes 8, 1 absent.
Claims.
Now the claims. Do I have a motion? On the claims. Is there any more discussion on the claims? Roll call vote, Carmen.
Markovich. Spitali.
Yes.
Benez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Hinojosa,
Yes.
and Opinker.
Yes. Claims passes 8, 0, 1 absent. Okay, number 5, public hearing. Read your public hearing, Carmen.
1231, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5001, 7056, 7057, 7789, 8223, 8389, 8817, and 8818, also known as Section 37.029 of the Hammond Municipal Code as it pertains to health insurance benefits for all City of Hammond employees.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
make a motion to allow current Hammond residents to speak first during the public hearing as a courtesy to them.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali for Hammond residents to speak first. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa?
is that Hammond residents first and then employees outside the city of Hammond second? Is that what that is?
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Whoever wants to come up to the podium, Hammond residents first.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
so that everyone's clear on what the public hearing is all about, if we could have the clerk read that.
Whereas the City of Hammond presently expends a disproportionately large portion of its city budget health insurance benefits and health care for its employees, and whereas compliance with upcoming changes in federal health care law are expected to increase the cost of health insurance benefits for city employees in the near future to an amount which cannot be financially sustained, whereas currently the City of Hammond provides health insurance benefits under differing plans and programs. And now the City of Hammond wishes to increase efficiency and simultaneously reduce costs to Hammond taxpayers by adopting a single unified and universal health insurance benefit program. Whereas the implementation of the unified and universal health insurance benefit program will provide equal treatment and coverage for all City of Hammond employees at a reduced cost, while encouraging healthier lifestyle choices for Hammond employees and encouraging wellness. Whereas the state of Indiana has already implemented a best practice in providing health coverage for its employees and as such may be emulated by the City of Hammond. Whereas this plan is described more fully and in detail at www.in.gov/SPD under the section entitled Health Plan Information. Therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Hammond, Indiana, that Section 37.029 of the Hammond Municipal Code is amended as follows. Section 37.029, Health Insurance Benefits. A, definitions. For the purposes of this section, the following definitions shall apply unless the context clearly indicates or requires a different meaning. Active employee / full-time employee. A person who works full-time at least 35 hours or more per week for any department or branch of the City of Hammond, including elected officials, judges, magistrates, referees, corporation counsel, pauper counsel, police, and firefighters. Health benefits. Those benefits that are generally provided to active employees, such as medical, hospitalization, dental, and vision coverage. These benefits become supplemental and secondary to Medicare when the active employee or retiree and/or their spouse become eligible for Medicare benefits. Retiree, an active employee who has applied and is eligible for Public Employees Retirement Fund, PERF, benefits. State law governs eligibility for PERF retirement benefits. B, benefits for active employees. Effective January 1st, 2013, the City of Hammond shall adopt and implement the State of Indiana Health Care Plans CDHP1, CDHP2, and a PPO, and all active employees would receive from the City of Hammond a health savings account. The plan premiums and benefits shall be adopted exactly as delineated in the State of Indiana plan, and shall change only when the same is changed by the State of Indiana. No employee shall receive any benefit greater than or premium less than those set by the State of Indiana, unless preempted by federal law. C, benefits for retirees. I, employees hired after January 1st, 2005 must earn at least 15 years of continuous service and are eligible for retirement under the Public Employees Retirement Fund plan to be eligible for health insurance benefits during retirement. II, employees hired prior to January 1st, 2005 are required to have worked at least 15 years of continuous full-time service and would participate in the State of Indiana plan at the contribution rate listed under this plan. III, elected officials. All elected officials who have served 10 years or more shall be entitled to the benefits described in Section B above. D, claims. All claims filed to the City Health Benefit Plan shall be processed and payment made within a period of not more than 90 days after submission. All records of the claims shall be confidential and not part of the public record. All employees who have a change in their status, such as a marriage, divorce, or child emancipation, must inform the City of Hammond of such change in status within 30 days of the change in status. Failure to inform the city of such changes may result in denial of benefits for claims related to the change in status. E, other employment. All retired members and their dependents who are employed are required to participate in the current employer's health plan if eligible. The City of Hammond Health Benefit Plan shall be secondary to the current employer's plan. Therefore, be it further ordained that if any part of this ordinance shall be held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction or superseded by change in state or federal law, the remainder thereof shall not be affected. Be it further ordained, this ordinance shall be considered as amending Section 37.029 of the Hammond Municipal Code, and if there be any conflict therewith, this amended ordinance shall take precedence. Be it further ordained by the Common Council that this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage by the Common Council, signing by the President thereof, and approval by the Mayor.
Okay, now we could begin a public hearing. Like I said, residents of the City of Hammond would like to speak first. Come up Goes to the podium.
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
just to clarify that a little better, it was voted on that, I know there's a lot of city employees out there, but if you live in the city, if you're a city employee, you live in the city of Hammond, you speak first. I don't know why. Maybe it's to see who doesn't live in Hammond, but that could be another subject for another day. So first up will be those from the city of Hammond, city employees. Correct, Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs?
is there a sign-in sheet for those who are speaking?
No.
We should have a sign-in sheet for the record.
Public hearing, you don't need to. No sign-in sheet.
Good afternoon. Paul Maldonado, President of Hammond FOP Lodge 51, Hammond police officer and Hammond resident. Today, this
Speaking to the mic,
council-
please.
Excuse me?
Speaking to the mic so we can...
Today, this council, in cooperation with the mayor and the other city officials, are considering ordinance 12-31A, which is sponsored by councilpersons Vanez, Spitali, Kowinski, and Emerson. The FOP, on behalf of hundreds of active and retired police officers who are going to be directly affected by this ordinance, would like to remind this council and administration of another action by this council. On March 14, 2011, this council unanimously adopted Resolution R-5, Resolution of the Common Council of Hammond, Indiana, supporting the right of all workers to unionize. Resolution R-5 contains language in part that states the rights of our citizens to unionize to affect working conditions, wages, and benefits is an important right. Resolution R-5 contains language which states in part that a policy position be clearly stated that all citizens of Hammond in the public sector shall have the right to participate in the union. Further, it contains language that states in part the undermining of unions by any means is detrimental to the middle class and will result in the increase of families living at the poverty level. The effect of this ordinance is to usurp the collective bargaining process, which indeed will undermine the police union by taking away a 28-year policy of negotiating in good faith to establish the wages, working conditions, and benefits of Hammond police officers. This council as a body and as individual members must now decide if they are willing to tell the truth, if they were telling the truth then and lying now, if they are lying then and telling the truth now, or do the right thing and vote down this ordinance as it affects the police officers of the city of Hammond. You cannot have it both ways. You either really and truly hold conviction that believes in the rights of workers and the process of collective bargaining, or you believe in the rights of management and political entities to dictate by FIOT what workers are allowed to have. As police officers, we have a standard that states that we must stand by our convictions so that we can be considered truthful and credible persons by standards of law. We now hope and pray that this council will do the right thing and mandate that the city not dictate by ordinance what our insurance will be, but that this council rather will mandate that the city collectively bargain in good faith with the police officers union, the FOP, as well as the firemen, to come to a fair and equitable agreement on this issue. Thank you.
Order.
Mark Tharp, I am a Hammond police officer. I'm a member of FOP 51 Wage and Benefit, and I am also a City of Hammond resident. Speaking on behalf of the FOP and our membership, the FOP's opposition to Ordinance 1231 is the hazard of one of its potential effects, which is to weaken or break the FOP union and usurp the negotiation process. The first article of FOP 51's contract for the City of Hammond states, and I quote, "The city and the lodge recognize and declare that they have bargained collectively with respect to terms and conditions of employment for police officers, and it is their desire, in the best interest of the citizens of the city, to promote harmonious relationships between the city and the lodge and to improve police protection for the citizens of the city," end quote. The city and the FOP have negotiated contracts for 28 years through the administrations of 3 different mayors and countless city council persons. For the first time in that span of years, the city, through Ordinance 1231, is attempting to usurp that negotiation process by enacting an ordinance that establishes insurance benefits for the active police officers and retired police officers of the City of Hammond. Article 23 of the current FOP contract establishes the insurance benefits. Section 3 of this article establishes the monthly insurance contributions. Interestingly enough, Section 4 of the current FOP contract article contains the negotiated concessions agreed to by the FOP and the city that provide stepped increases in maximum out-of-pocket per person employee insurance expenses. $1,200 single, $3,000 family in 2009, $1,400 single, $3,500 family in 2010, $1,600 single, $4,000 family in 2011, and $1,800 single, $4,500 family in 2012. These increases to our membership were negotiated in good faith through the collective bargaining process with the city. As anybody knows, in the negotiation process, there is a give and take between the two sides. The FOP does not get everything that it wants, and neither does the city. The important thing is that it is an agreement negotiated in good faith between the parties. Now comes the city through Ordinance 1231, attempting to break that tradition of good faith negotiation by establishing by decree what our insurance benefits will be. This is not good faith negotiation between two parties. It is one party telling the other party what it wants and what the other side will be forced to accept. The FOP opposes this action by the city, just as the city would rightfully oppose attempts by the FOP to go outside the negotiation process. Wage and Benefit Committee of the FOP has been in contact with the Mayor's Chief of Staff since January, requesting twice monthly that the city sit down and begin talks about our next contract. Each time the FOP has been told that the city is not ready to negotiate or even talk. Now the political actors within the city government have proposed an ordinance that attempts to forever fracture the negotiation process and 28 years of good faith. We ask the council to vote down this ordinance as it pertains to the FOP and the police officers of the city of Hammond, and that this council instead direct the city to continue to negotiate in good faith and in the best interest of the citizens of the city, to promote harmonious relationships between the city and the lodge, and to prove police protection for the citizens of the city. Thank you.
Next.
I'm not a resident.
Well, obviously nobody, okay.
Mike Jordan, Hammond resident, currently. FOP member. I just prepared a couple of quick notes based on some of the comments I've heard and I've read in the paper. And I would just ask the council to remember that we negotiated this contract in good faith, and we've honored our part of it. All we're asking is for you to do the same. Regular city workers get holidays and weekends off. We don't. So there should be a separate tier for us. We are the people who keep the city safe, both police and fire. So that's what part of the reason was always that we were kept on a separate level, is because there was an exception, or there was a difference between the work we did and the comparisons to, say, example, the city controller or a garbage man. We were held in a higher regard because of the type of work we do and the nature of that work. But if this is truly about money and not politics, then why aren't we looking at all the city employees? Why are the Teamsters not included in this? This is purely politics. We should all have the personal integrity to say so. Excuse me. I guess in closing, I would ask why we have to force this through right now. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't able to be at the caucus and the meeting, but it's my understanding that when the RFOP and the fire union asked questions of the specific councilman who sponsored this, you guys couldn't answer it. Why does this have to be forced through tonight? What's wrong with putting the brakes on, slow down, and find out exactly what we're dealing with before we rush into something? And then last, I would just say that specifically, as well as being a member, I'm a past president and negotiated the first contract with the current mayor. And I recall, as he said, he honored our previous sacrifice of no raises in order to keep our insurance. And we've done that many times. 0, 0, 0, and 3, or all zeros and maybe a 4 in there, or a couple of zeros and some 2s. I'm generalizing, Councilman, right? You have a quizzical look on your face, but you're a fireman, you know we took 0% to protect our insurance. And we were always told that he would honor that sacrifice. So since we're no longer honoring that sacrifice, that 0%, does that mean that I can get that retroactive pay raises back? Because I'm going to be compared to the city controller. I'd like to make his money. Thank you.
Anybody else from the city of Hammond like to speak next? Nobody else from the city of Hammond wants to speak next?
Mr. President,
Mayor?
I'd like to assert my privilege as mayor to address some of the questions that are open after a few of the first speakers. So I'd like to point out in response to Mr. Jordan's he pointed out how they gave up raises in previous years, and I'd like to point out over the last 8 years what the Hammond Police and Hammond Firemen got under their contracts that are still valid. In 2004, they got a 3% pay raise. In 2005, they got a 3% pay raise. In 2006, they got a 3% pay raise. In 2007, they got a 3% pay raise. In 2008, they got a 3% pay raise. In 2009, they got a 3% pay raise. In 2010, they got a 4% pay raise. In 2011, they got a 4% pay raise. In addition, each year they get 2%, I believe, of their pension contribution by the city as well. So you could look at it really as 3 plus 2 every single one of those years. Mr. Tharp brought up the fact that we're negotiating in bad faith. I would like to point out that we have received letters from the FOP and the fire union about beginning negotiations, and we have 7 months left under our current deal that we are 100% in compliance with. I don't feel we need to negotiate right now. And I still don't feel we have business to do with the council before I feel free to work out 4-year deals with the unions. And I would like to point out also, currently, what Hammond Police and Hammond Firemen are paying out of pocket, deductible $600, $300 max out of pocket for a family, which is completely unrealistic in today's world. They're paying $12.50 every paycheck. For every prescription, we're getting prescriptions, employees get prescriptions that cost $200-$300 sometimes, and they're paying $10 or $15 depending on if it's generic or name brand. I'd like to also point out that the fastest rising cost in city government right now is medical expenses in general. But if you break down medical expenses, the absolute fastest rising cost in city government is prescription drugs. It costs $3 million a year for prescription drug coverage for city employees. $3 million a year just for prescription drugs, just for city employees and family members of city employees. Now, give you an idea of how much $3 million is, it's the cost of the park department. Every single employee in the park department, every gallon of gas we purchase in the park department, every ounce of overtime we spend in the park department costs around the same as it costs to insure just the prescription drugs for our city employees. And I'd like to also point out one unfortunate fact that out of the total cost of medical expenses, which is around $12 to $13 million every year, we only have 3% contributed by the employees. It's just 3% of 12 to 13 million every year is completely out of whack, completely out of line. Private businesses, it's more like 40%. 3% coverage. This is a plan literally out of the 1970s and needs to be updated, and especially now that we have tax caps in Indiana that limit our income. We have no local option income tax in Lake County because the county council and the county commissioners have failed to pass it. And because we don't have a local option income tax, our levies have been frozen in Hammond and in Lake County at 2005 levels. I understand there's frustrated police, firemen. I'm sure there's frustrated employees as well. The fact is, the state and the county are limiting our options. We have one source of revenue, as you all know, and that's property tax revenue. When I took over as your mayor, we received $44 million in property tax revenue in 2004. We will get $28 million this year. We got $44 million of property tax revenue in 2004. We're going to get $28 million in 2012. And how much has life changed between 2004 and 2012? How much has the price of gas increased? We have 12, 15 officers on the streets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have fire engines that make constant calls. We have street department cars that make constant calls. Price of gas has probably tripled in that span of time alone, and we're stuck at 2005 levels on our levy, frozen. The fact is, we don't have the tools, we don't have the ability to finance a benefit package at this level anymore because of stuff that's happened outside of Hammond. It's happening in Indianapolis, and it's happening in Crown Point. And until I don't see the Constitution in Indiana ever being changed to reverse the tax cap, so that's off the table. So if there's ever a local option income tax passed in Lake County, we may have more revenue to play with. We can't count on that. We can't count on that. And quite frankly, I know these players, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I got to negotiate a 4-year deal. I got $16 million less revenue every single year than we had in property tax revenue. And I understand the employees are upset. I understand that. I would be upset too. But you have to understand the situation the council and the mayor are in. You guys are very well aware of the financial situation facing the city. I don't have to explain it to you. That's why we're here. It's not because we don't appreciate what a Hammond firefighter does. It's not because we don't appreciate what a Hammond police officer does. I appreciate what my city controller does, and without my city controller, a lot of these people in here wouldn't get paychecks on a regular basis, or we wouldn't be able to afford the fuel that they purchase. And if a street department worker doesn't clear the streets, you can't get to the fire to put a fire out. Every single one of us is important. Every single city employee is just as important as the next. And we're dealing with a tough situation. I understand why you're here. I respect the job you do, but you just have to understand why we're here. It's not because we don't appreciate you. It's not that at all. It's because we get $16 million less of property tax revenue every single year than we used to get in 2004. That's why we're here.
Good evening, I'm Tom Daverton, I'm the Chief of Staff. I want to address a couple of the comments that were made as well. And the mayor mentioned before, we're facing a very serious shortfall. So in answer to the question of why, it's pretty obvious. When we negotiated the last contract or the contract before that, and I'm the lead negotiator for the city of Hammond, we never anticipated that we'd have this type of shortfall that we're now facing. Tax caps were not on the horizon. A constitutional amendment was not being considered when we negotiated the last contract. I also want to point out a comment that was made about good faith by Mr. Tharp. No offense, Mark, but the changes that we're proposing would take effect 1/1/13, and your contract runs through December 31st of 2012. So as the mayor said, we are supporting everything that we have in the contract. Mike Jordan, who I've negotiated with before, mentioned about not getting paid for holidays, but Mike, that's not true. You do get paid for holidays. You get paid in a lump sum for those holidays, and it's in the contract, twice a year. But you get paid for the holidays. You may, okay, you said you didn't get paid for holidays. Nonetheless, I'm not here to debate you on that. The fact is that we have a serious financial situation, and we also have a need to change our health insurance. Why? Well, as the mayor said, we have a health insurance plan for city employees, including police and fire and everybody else, that basically was designed in the 1970s and 1980s, and it's not meeting our needs financially. And frankly, some of the things that are in the plan right now, certainly if they were in the private sector, would probably be a violation of current federal law, including ERISA. And the Health Care Reform Act. The fact that we have different levels of benefits for different employees, if we were the private sector, would be a violation of ERISA. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Baker, but it probably violates the spirit of the Health Care Reform Act to have different benefits for different employees in the future. So we're proposing some changes, no doubt about it. We've proposed 3 plans. The first 2 plans are health savings account plans. That basically, under federal law, you can have a high deductible and then have your employer contribute tax-free to the employee money that if they don't spend, they can spend it first dollar as they need it on health costs. If they don't use that money is theirs. It can be invested in an IRA and actually be used as a retirement benefit. The third plan is the PPO. And I want to go through the PPO because I think there's some misunderstandings. The initial proposal that went to the city council, the last meeting, mirrored the state plan. The new plan is vastly different. It saves us a great deal of money. And I want to go through the actual specifics of that plan so everybody understands what we're proposing. I'm going to cover the network benefits only because, as everybody in this room I think knows, our network basically covers more than 90% of all the healthcare providers in the area and 100% of all the hospitals in the Chicago, Northwest Indiana area. So I'm going to focus on the network, very similar though to our current plan for out-of-network. Deductible, single is $750 and $1,500 for family. That's an increase. Currently it's $200 and $600, and that's an increase. But again, the cost of health care has risen dramatically. As everyone knows, it's a major source of debate in this country about what to do with it. And unfortunately, Congress hasn't been able to do anything really with it, and it's coming down to employers, including the city of Hammond, to address. Out-of-pocket limit. The amount would be $2,500 and $5,000. That's really a $500 increase over the current plan. Physician office visits, $35 for primary care, $70 if it's a specialist. Preventative care services are covered at 100%. That includes mammograms, pap smears, and annual physicals are covered at 100%. Emergency and urgent care. This is one of the biggest problems with our healthcare system in this nation. We have a $300 payment if you use the emergency room and you're not admitted. If you're admitted, that $300 copay is waived. $100 for urgent care. Why? Because once again, now urgent care is being swamped with demand, and unfortunately, urgent care was designed to be kind of the light version of an emergency room, and it's being used for everything else. Everything else is basically covered at 80-20. That's pretty much what we have right now. The prescription drug, the mayor mentioned, prescription drugs are rising at a very alarming rate. It costs us the same amount that we spend on the entire park department in a year, $3 million. The plan proposes a $250 individual deductible with a maximum of 3 times that amount for families. So the maximum deductible on the drug section would be $750 for a family. The cost of the copays would be $15, basically $15, $25, $40, and $60, depending on whether it's generic, formulary, brand, non-formulary, or specialty drug. You can get the mail order option. You can get a 3-month supply for 2 months cost. The deductible, when someone has a maintenance drug prescription, and I have one myself as a call, your first month you'll have to pay the discounted full cost. You wouldn't be paying the list cost, however. Most drugs, there's a list cost and there's a dramatic difference between the list cost and the discounted cost. Even when you're meeting your deductible, you'll still pay the discounted cost. The contributions from an employee would be, we're going to give 2 options. Most people, I would think, would opt to take an annual blood test. Why? Because the annual blood test is one proven way we can reduce the cost of health care. If every employee takes an annual blood test, we can prevent having to pay the cost for heart attacks, for strokes, for cancer at advanced stages. So having that blood test makes a great deal of sense. The cost, if you take the blood test, would be $30 for a single and $60 for family per paycheck. However, that's pre-tax. Normally, pre-tax means the actual net cost to you is about 60 to 70%, depending on your tax bracket. So if it's $30, you're probably going to be paying somewhere in the $20, $22 per paycheck range. You're currently paying $12 and $25 per paycheck, so it is an increase, but it's a necessary increase. Again, costs have gone up. It was mentioned before that a number of the union members had negotiated a 0% increase in return for keeping their health insurance the way it was. Keep in mind that when you negotiated that wasn't in perpetuity. That was for the life of that contract. Times have changed, and it's unfortunate. And I know firsthand, by the way, how much health insurance costs, because I'm not on the city plan. I'm a contractor to the city. And the cost of my health insurance for my family and I is $25,000 a year. And I don't have a Cadillac plan by any means. And I have to pay deductibles and I have to pay out-of-pockets, and my out-of-pocket and my deductibles are much higher than this plan. So I do understand as a business person firsthand the cost of health insurance. And I also understand the impact that it has on a family. I'd be glad to answer any questions the council has about the proposed plan. I didn't cover the two HSA plans only because we had covered those previously. So be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
just for clarity as it relates to the deductible and in regards to my understanding of the deductible of $250, but if you're on the PPO plan, you would get a discount rate versus having to come up with $250 all at once. Am I correct?
He's talking about the discount for the prescription drug. This is Dave Baker. He's not a Hammond resident, but he is the one that runs our plan, so he might be best to answer this.
Because of the PBM we use, there is a discount on our prescriptions. So if you went into regular retail to Walgreens to get a script, let's say for an allergy, and you would pay $150, because you belong to the City of Hammond plan, instead of paying $150, you would pay a discounted rate of, let's say, $75 or $80, depending on what they negotiated and what the rate was. So that's what we mean by the discount, as opposed to the regular retail rate that you would pay.
Then, Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
then once you get to $250, so saying the first prescription may be $75, well, say it's $150 and with the discount you would pay $75. But once you get to the $250, then it would be the regular copay of $15.
For generic, that's correct.
The generic.
And it varies. We're going from a 2-tier plan to a 4-tier plan. So depending on if it's a generic, if it's a formulary brand, a non-formulary brand, or a specialty drug, the copays are different. And they're different to try and steer people towards the generic, of course, and to the name formulary brands, which are less expensive.
But how would that apply if, say for instance, that your particular prescription does not have generic? Then how would that apply?
Then you would have to pay the name brand price and the name brand copay. Okay.
Question I have, this is for Mr. Dabberton. I've been getting calls from retirees, fire and police, and the biggest question out there is firemen that retire at the age of 52 to 64, what is their cost going to be, and also the retirees that are 65 and older?
The cost to the employee, the retired employee between 55 and 65 would be the same.
52 and 64.
52 and 64 would be the same that it would be for an active employee. The cost for or the coverage for retirees, we have a Medicare supplement plan that we provide to the civil employees, and we provide that as well. Once you're age 65, remember you're covered by Medicare. And Medicare basically covers 90% up front. It's very cheap for us to buy a supplementary plan to cover those costs that aren't covered by Medicare.
Thank you.
Mr. President? I know you can't talk about specific cases of people because of the medical privacy laws, but I want to talk about my family and where I'm going to go from to, assuming that this plan is passed by the council, okay? Assuming that the alternative PPO is passed by the council, that's the plan I plan to make my family and put my family on. Right now, I pay $25 a paycheck for my family coverage, all right? It's going to go up to $90 under this plan, and then I'm going to consent to do the yearly blood screen so that I can get the lower payments. And if I'm sick and I don't realize it, the blood screen will find that. So I'm going to go from $25 every paycheck to $90, and then we're going to drop it down to $60 because I consent to be part of the blood screen. So $25 to $60 is my biweekly contribution, all right? My ER room, instead of being $50 per visit, which is completely not realistic, you go to the ER, Dave, on a normal visit, what is a normal ER bill? It's $1,000. So right now, there's no disincentive for our employees to go to the ER. You go to the ER, no problem, $50 to the employee, $2,000 bill to the city. So now our ER, we're trying to disincentivize people from going to the ER unless, of course, you're in an emergency situation. we're going to raise that fee to $300 per visit. And if you get admitted, if you go to the ER and get admitted, we're going to charge you $0. If you're having a heart attack and you go to the ER, we're not going to charge you $300. You should be at the ER with a heart attack. However, if you break your pinky and you go to the ER to get it set and they don't admit you, we're going to charge you $300. So that's a real life change that I will see under this plan change. ER visits. My max out of pocket for my family is going to go from $4,500 to $5,000. That's not really that big of a change at all for a year. Max out of pocket for my family raises $500. My in-network deductible is going to go from $600 to $1,500. So that is going to go higher, the deductible. If I go to the doctor more, I'm going to have to pay more. All right? And my prescriptions are going to go from $10 or $15 per prescription to I have to hit the deductible and then pay a percentage. So that's how it's going to change my family. It's going to cost a couple $100 a month. I mean, realistically, 25 to 60 plus, I imagine we're going to go to the doctor a few times. So it'll cost me more money. But the PPO is the plan I'm going to put my family on. I've researched the 3 options, and that's the best option for my family. I have 6 people in my family, so I think a lot of people are like my family. A lot of the police and firemen in here, a lot of the city employees will probably choose the same option because that's the plan that makes the most sense to me. And really, it's not as dramatic of an impact as a lot of people are making it out to be. Granted, nobody likes to pay more money, but it's not as dramatic as it's being made out to be. I can answer any questions the council has as well.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
Mayor, what is the cost savings, say this plan is approved by the council, what is the savings?
It's estimated. It depends on really what the employees choose, Councilman, because there's 3 different plans. Actually, the employee gets a better deal if they go into the HSAs because we have to fund their health savings accounts. We get the better end of the deal if the employees choose to go into the PPO because there's no HSA there. So it's up to the employees how much we save. But it's estimated to save us between $2 and $3 million a year based on last year's expenses. Now, that doesn't take into effect the fact that there's no disincentive to go to the ER this year, and next year there will be a disincentive to go to the ER. So I think it's safe to say this will save us $2.5 million to $3 million. It's safe to say, based on last year's numbers. Councilman Higgs, as you know, with us being upside down the way we are, looking at $2.5 to $3 million of savings is something we have to look hard at. Any other questions for?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
networking the doctors, is this going to change?
The network changes. It stays exactly the same, right, Dave?
Stays the same?
Exactly the same. Right.
Whoever wants to come up. Yes.
Ed Lamelli, President of the Hammond Firefighters, Local 556, 9436 Klein. First of all, I just find it offensive that this ordinance affects everybody in the city, whether you're a firefighter, police officer, city employee, or a political official. To say that citizens of Hammond have the choice to come up first, I thought in every of those professions that you choose to serve the city and residents, visitors and residents. I don't pick and choose when I go to the Horseshoe Casino and ask the individual that is hurt or if he's a citizen of Hammond before I treat him, or somebody on the Borman. So I find that very offensive. I want to start by saying members of Local 556, retired and active members, feel that a lot has changed in the last 2 weeks with this ordinance. I do feel, and I think our membership feel, that some things have gotten greatly increased and improved in this situation. But the fact of the matter is, we have never given a piece of paper that says exactly what the city is looking at, whether it's option 1, 2, or 3. So to go on hearsay and rumors on what is going to affect our families is very heartening and very hard to swallow. I understand there's a shortfall between Mr. Dabberton and Bob Lindy and the mayor and you as a council that we're facing. But there's so many questions that we've had, you as a council, us as people that are going to have this policy upon them. And to take action on this prematurely without these questions being answered, I think is a hasty decision. I think it needs a little more time, and I know the mayor wants to get this done, and I understand why. And I appreciate the improvements that have been made. but there's certain things that we need to take to our members or retirees to answer these questions and be educated. Because if it's implemented without us knowing, it's hard for us to educate our people that we represent. A question here, and if one of you can answer, and maybe somebody here on to the right of me can, is that, okay, this is starting as of January 2013. Are we all going to take physicals if this passes beforehand, or take a blood test before this is implemented? Or are we going to kind of just wait and see how long until we all get our blood tests and pay the stimulated amount? There's a lot of questions that need to be cleared up. I do sympathize with the mayor and everyone else about the rising costs. And we as members and retirees understand that. With the FOP, I think they understand it too. But we've never been asked for ideas. We've never been asked if we can give health incentive things that we may be able to offer. But these are things that we're taking action on with so many questions that are still out there. I just urge you and would appreciate if you would get a little more time before you take action on this resolution. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mayor?
I'd like to point out in response to Mr. Lamelli and reminding everybody in attendance that the mayor, under his position as mayor, is able to walk up to the podium and address the council. I'd like to address some of the issues that Mr. Lamelli raised about a lack of clarity regarding this ordinance. I have met with each of the city council people, myself twice, as well as my team. We've spoken through just about every different scenario, and quite frankly, we all realized early on that the PPO that was offered by the state wasn't really a good option for our employees, and that's why we made the recommendations between the council and the mayor. We made the improvements ourselves. I feel like even though there are unanswered questions with the employees, I acknowledge that there probably are unanswered questions between the employees. Until we finalize that ordinance, there's nothing for us to talk to the employees about. Once this ordinance is finalized by the council and signed by the mayor, we plan with the remainder of 2012 to hit the road and talk to the employees in multiple sessions to educate the employees about the 3 different plans so that the employee could educate themselves on which plan is best for them and make the right decision by the end of 2012. And we could cover the issues like the blood tests and things like that with the remainder of this year. And if there are medical procedures that some family member may need to get, I urge you under this ordinance, it does not take effect until January 1st, 2013. One of the reasons we did that is because we wanted to honor our existing contracts with the fire and the police. Another reason we did that is so that the employees could get ready for the new changes to take effect at the end of this year. So I think that even though we may not have spoken to Mr. Lamelli and the fire union, we have done our homework and we have met with the city council members who are the ones that are making this decision on multiple occasions, and I'd like to point that out. Thank you.
Next.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm not a resident of Hammond, but I have grown up in Hammond, and I graduated from Donnelly Gavitt High School, and Joanne's now gone. She graduated with her. But today I'm recording secretary and business agent for the Teamsters. I'm here to let you guys all know that the Teamsters are supporting these 2 units and asking you to vote this down. We represent many municipality employees throughout the county, and we understand the shortfall. We understand that, Mayor. But I think what I've heard all night long here is that the 2 units are asking for communication. I think if you could sit down with them and show them what the options were. I think what they're being told is this is what we had, this is what you're going to get, and that's just too bad. This ordinance actually ties their hands to bargaining, because it's the only insurance that's going to be offered. There's no way to bargain any other insurance. This is what it's going to be. This is how it's going to be. Mayor, earlier you said that there's a time that we wanted to do it now so we could save money. If we pass this tonight or in June, do we save any more money? Is it the same? I think that's what these ladies and gentlemen are talking about tonight, that they just want to voice at the table. In my years, and Tom's done a lot of contracts too, we have members with us at the table when we negotiate. Usually any changes that we do in contracts or in language and everything, if the members have input on the new language, it usually is implemented with ease. I had a company where they were going to change some type of attendance policy. I got 25, 30 phone calls for 3 days in a row. I called the manager of the company and said, I want to sit down and talk to you. He goes, Harvey, I'm not negotiating this. This is the new policy. This is what it's going to be. I said, let me and the stewards come in and talk to you. We went in, we suggested 6 changes in language. That policy was rolled out, not one peep. I didn't hear anybody because our people felt like they had an input on what the changes were going to be. And I think that's all these gentlemen and ladies want. Thank you.
Sir, what was your name?
I'm sorry, Harvey Jackson.
Got that, Carmen?
My name is Mike Darnell, Hammond Police Department. I'm the First Vice President of Hammond FOP. We're here 2 weeks later from where last time we were here, and I have disappointment from council members. After the last meeting, I sent certified letters to all council people and to the city administrators, just asking to sit down with us and explain these plans. We have never got that. We've got third-hand information and rumors for the last 2 weeks. People scared to death, retirees ready to cry because they're going to lose their insurance. All we ask is for people to sit down and talk to us. Tonight is the first time we've seen the final draft that you guys are going to amend tonight and possibly vote on tonight. All we ask is you guys sit down and explain this to us. There's still language in the ordinance that you guys have read tonight that refers back to the state plan, Well, you can't refer back to the state plan only because there's been changes in the state plan. This is not the state plan in the ordinance that you guys have talked about tonight. There have been changes that need to be added to that plan and explained to the body before you guys vote on it. They're like if people have said before, there is no rush. There's been other talk about private and public sector. Well, we are not in the private sector. We're in the public sector. We have different obligations and things that people do. We pay a new guy $32,000 a year to go out in a police car and fight bullets. Most other places that have in the private sector go out, pay them $50,000, $60,000 starting off, and they're not fighting bullets. So there is a difference between the public and private sector, and I think we should be having the decency as a council and city administration sit down and talk to us and explain these plans, not 5 minutes before the meeting starts what the plan is, but sit down with the FOP and the Hammond Fire Department and explain what the plan is before you guys vote on it tonight. I would just ask tonight that you guys do not vote on this or vote no or table it so we can have the opportunity to sit down with you guys and discuss these plans. Thank you.
Who would like to speak next?
How you doing tonight? My name is Todd Larson. I call my home in the city 7527 Kennedy Avenue. It's at Hammond FOP Lodge 51. And I also do take offense, Mr. Kowinski, that when there's a call about shots fired or what have you, we don't ask for City of Hammond police officers go answer those calls. It's us. In 2008, our FOP contract maxed out of pocket $600. Now it's $4,500. That's a 750% increase. With all due respect, Mayor, I added up your threes and fours, and with the twos, and I didn't get to 750%. And by definition, the word concession means that a party has to concede something, by which I think as a body we have. We've changed our insurance. The FOP has understood the meaning of the word concession. We have all given. All the while, we continue to do our job. As a body, to serve and to protect is our credo, and we have followed through. When negotiations between the City of Hammond and the FOP have occurred, the FOP has always been professional and abided by our contract. It is evident the city is trying to play the political game and go around our contract, attempting to put this ordinance into effect prior to our negotiations. And that's why it's so pertinent at this time that it goes through, because we can't have it go through in July, and we all know that because we have to sit down and confer. Can you honestly look at yourselves in the mirror and indeed say that this is not the case? The police department is comprised of individuals with various backgrounds, many having bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees. With that being said, we have given assistance in the form of examples for the city to make money and decrease debt. However, these examples have fallen on deaf ears. We understand that there is a dollar and cents factor involved in running the city. No doubt it is a major business or corporation, whatever you want to call it. As our part of this corporation, we understand that providing a safe environment for the citizens and businesses in the city to be our main objective. Cabela's, Potash, Munster Steel, Nuevo Leon, Walmarts, and the like, they can go to a neighboring city. However, they choose to root themselves here. They want one of our zip codes. Ask yourselves why. We believe we're doing our part as a part of this corporation or business by providing them safety and security. Look at our major neighboring cities. East Chicago, Gary, look at their populations. Look at some of the land they have to develop. Why don't those businesses want to go to root themselves there? I think I know the answer. I believe the answer lies in we're doing our part, which we're going to keep doing no matter what, because that's the oath we've taken. The FOP is not involved in the negotiations with these enterprises, nor are we providing them with the tax benefits to plant themselves in our city. They are given benefits and tax breaks, which are exorbitant, but we are told the city is in a financial crisis. This is not our doing. As stated earlier, we are doing our part. We have attempted to discuss options in regards to the College Bound program, which has been in place for numerous years. We believe the College Bound program is a really good program. It's there for the citizens to utilize. It's there to put people into the homes. It's there to add to our taxes, our tax base, to get some of those taxes back. But unfortunately, all we keep hearing is that the tax base that we're collecting went from 94% to 84%. So I don't know how well the College Bound program works in that regard. The city then asked for us to solve the problem by increasing our out-of-pocket expenses for insurance. But as a business, the city does not attempt to look at any other providers to shore up the problem. There's going to be one provider, and that's Professional Claims, Mr. Baker there. When you go buy a car, do you shop at one place and one place only? Do you do your research on the internet to find out what their invoice is, what your car is worth? I think you do. But in this case, as a business, and you sitting on the board as a business, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your research, and you're not looking at other avenues. There are no other avenues. We're given an avenue, and that's it. Recently, Maryville switched over from being self-insured to a private provider. Maryville states they're going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know if this is the case. I'm reading the Times. Whatever you read cannot always be true, but I'm saying there has to be some credence in there. We, Hammond Lodge 51, are asking you to vote down this ordinance, at least tonight, and look at other options tonight, tomorrow. You each got 3 big stacks. We have looked at nothing else. We have looked at no other providers. Prior to this, I was a pharmacist. I was in the health insurance field. I know exactly how much prescriptions cost. I also know there's rebates and stuff that go along with it, but I'm not going to get in that. We're doing our part, all right? And we're continually going to do our part because we call ourselves professionals. And I'm always going to be a professional. That's why I'm not here to slam anybody. I'm asking you to look at other options because there's always other options. And I'm asking you to do your homework. Thank you.
Mr. President? I'd like to have Mr.
Councilman Spitali.
Mr. Dabberton come to the mic, please.
Yes. In regard to the rebates, we do receive rebates. We actually are very aggressive on those rebates. And as far as the comment about Mr. Baker being us being self-insured, professional claims management simply processes all of the claims. It's a huge task for what we believe to be a very reasonable cost. Generally, health insurance the insurance industry itself is a for-profit industry. No one's held a tag day for any insurance company that I know of when it comes to health insurance. They make money. So the fact is that when people get up here and say, well, we should privatize, they're making a big mistake, because there isn't an insurance company out there that's going to go and take on insuring employees when they already know what the actual costs are. They're not going to take it for a loss. Insurance companies are there to make money. So they're not going to take over our health claims and say that we have $13 million a year in claims and say, we're going to do it for $10 million, because if they do, they're going to lose money. And people in the private sector know you don't do things to lose money. So the fact is that the rebates, yes, we get them. We're very aggressive. Mr. Baker's company is very aggressive. And I should point out, it's not Dave Baker, it's Professional Claims Management. He happens to be president of the company. But in regard to the idea of going to self-insurance versus buying insurance from a provider, the fact of the matter is nobody's going to insure us for less than the actual claims that we pay.
Next.
Mike Hall, Hammond Firefighters, Rose Lawn. We've asked basically for a meeting last month so we can get an explanation of this. We haven't received anything. Some of the same council people who are sponsoring this ordinance are asking questions up here tonight. If that doesn't tell you there's a problem, I don't know what does. That's all.
As far as do we check the marketplace? Remember now, you have a self-funded plan. We simply administrate the claims. What we put out in the marketplace every year is a large cost, and that's your reinsurance costs. So when you have a claim over a certain dollar amount, we have a reinsurance treaty, and that company will pay that claim. That helps control our costs and budget. We put that out every year. Every 2 to 3 years, we put out the pharmacy costs to find the best discounts that we can get with the best network. In addition to the pharmacy, we also put the network out for the medical side of the plan. So for the hospitals and the physicians, every 2 to 3 years, we put that out to bid to find the best discounts that we can. So we are very competitive, and we do know the marketplace. We've been at this over 30 years.
Anybody else like to speak?
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Richard Simpson. I'm a Hammond police officer, have been for 7 years. I'm also a licensed attorney in the state of Indiana and have been since the year 2002. Obviously, I'm here to speak to this ordinance. The passage of this ordinance will, I believe, have a disproportional effect on retired police officers. Many of the retirees from the police department are on fixed incomes, they have meager pensions, and any increase at all in that monthly contribution would be a significant financial hardship, and I feel like they need a voice. No one involved in this issue is naive enough not to recognize that healthcare costs go up, and everyone realizes that sometimes changes need to be made in order to remain viable. I think we've gone through that at length tonight. However, the way to make these changes is through collective bargaining. The way to make these changes is to allow representatives from the FOP and the fire department to negotiate and make concessions that will offset these changes and attempt to, at the end of the day, maintain an adequate standard of living for our retirees. Each and every Hammond Police Department retiree worked for 20 or more years in service of the city of Hammond. We owe them not only a debt of gratitude, but a voice in these negotiations. One of the reasons that the city of Hammond is able to attract qualified police officers from other departments throughout the region is the attractiveness of its insurance benefits and the ability of the FOP to negotiate with the city. If asked, a great deal of them will tell you that the fact that the city does the right thing by its retirees by offering them health insurance at a reasonable rate, that was a tipping point for them coming here. The implementation of this new ordinance marks the beginning of the city, I believe, going down a slippery slope toward no longer being able to attract this type of top-tier law enforcement from around the region. Additionally, as you are all aware, last year, in the state of Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker, a Republican, pushed a bill through the Wisconsin legislature which crippled the rights of public employees to collectively bargain for the benefits of employment. This was a high-profile case that sparked a debate over the rights of organized labor. However, The tide has been shifting against unions ever since. States have limited the rights of public employees to collectively bargain for wages and insurance benefits. Even our own state has made national headlines through right-to-work legislation. The catalyst for all these initiatives, however, is that the force propelling them forward is a Republican. I stand before a city council which is exclusively Democrat. I stand before a city council who sits in a county which is traditionally the only Democratic county in the entire state of Indiana. I stand before a council who, likely both in public and in private, spoke against Governor Daniels and the right-to-work legislation and decried Governor Walker in Wisconsin for his short-sighted, anti-labor, pro-corporation mindset. I stand here before a city council whose mayor is the chairman of arguably the most powerful Democratic Party organization in the state. I stand before you as a representative of a group of laborers who are asking Democratic leaders of the city for which they work, to protect them the way that Democrats throughout history have done. You may all have your individual opinions about the pay and the benefits that your public safety employees have. What you cannot argue with, however, is the methods by which we have obtained those benefits, which was through bargaining between labor and management, the way it has been done since the onset of the labor movement in the early 20th century. Passage of this ordinance, as it is currently written, unquestionably sends the message that the Hammond City Council does not respect workers' rights, does not value collective bargaining, and does not accept the philosophy of the Democratic Party under which you are all elected. In closing, I will say that as a representative of the Hammond FLP Lodge 51 Wage and Benefit Committee, I am and will continue to be willing to negotiate in good faith for a change in insurance benefits. I am and will continue to respect the financial position of the city, county, and state, and take that position into account when involved in negotiations. I am and will continue to be respectful and willing to work with the mayor and this administration while negotiating. I am and will continue to work within the confines of my philosophies and my belief structures while involved with all aspects of the performance of my job duties, both on the street and in negotiations. I only ask that you pledge to conform your political philosophy and to your belief structures. Ask yourself what you want your legacy to be. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
It's been a while since I've been questioned on my political philosophy, but I'll remind the last speaker that I've been endorsed by every union in Northwest Indiana, statewide. In fact, if you talk to many union leaders across the state of Indiana, they'll point to me, Mayor McDermott, as one of the leading union advocates. And if you believe a lot of what's being said up here is basically, I guess, the way that FOP and the fire union are looking at this issue is the Hammond City Council has no say in the benefits package that's offered. It should all be done in the bargaining process. And if you guys believe in that philosophy, I ask you to vote against this ordinance today. But the fact is, I can make, if that's the philosophy, I can make any deal I want with FOP and fire, and you guys have to live with the consequences. Even though you're the fiscal body, I guess that means you have no say on pay increases that I bargain with FOP and fire union either. If we make a deal that you don't think is affordable, you have no say. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You're the fiscal body of the city. You're the board of directors of a corporation, and I'm the CEO. And I don't find too many corporations in America that go to the employees and say, hey, what do you guys want to pay? And then they go back to the board of directors and CEO and discuss it there. What they do there is they get the bosses together, they talk about what they can afford, and then they approach the employees and say, this is what we got, all right? The bottom line is this. I think the council has every right to insert itself into this debate. You are the fiscal body of the city. Health benefits are the third largest cost behind the police department, behind the fire department, and health benefits. If they go unchecked, health benefits will cost more than the Hammond Fire Department. If we left this same contract in place for 4 more years without changing it, at the end of those 4 years, health benefits would be more costly than the city's fire department. And our prescription drugs, which are right now running $3 million, will probably be closer to $5 or $6 million, which would be more costly than public works. I'm talking recycling, sanitation, and streets. You don't have a say in this, I guess, according to the last speaker. You don't have any, how dare you interfere in a democratic process, in a negotiation process? That's ridiculously ludicrous. The fact is, you're the fiscal officer of the city. You are just as aware as everybody about the fiscal situation facing the city, and you could punt And you could punt and leave it up to the mayor to be the bad guy, or you could take leadership on this issue and do what needs to be done. This is not because Tom McDermott is anti-fireman. This is not because Mayor McDermott is anti-policeman or is he anti-employee. I'm doing this because we have no other options. And quite frankly, there's a lot of frustrated people in here. I would recommend these people take their frustrations where they could actually make a difference. Like show up to a county council meeting. Show up to a county commissioner meeting. That's the choke point. That's why we're broke. Why don't you take your anger out where it belongs? You could actually accomplish something there. We're at the end of the line. We get the money given to us. And if they're not handing us as much money, we don't have as much money to hand out. That's what frustrates me about a lot of this debate, is when we decide to take a truck out of service, instead of the firemen marching on the county council chamber saying, pass a local option income tax so that we could operate government in Hammond, they march the streets of Hammond and scare residents. That's what frustrates me, is it's misdirected anger. Mayor McDermott's been a solid supporter of the unions in Hammond from day one. The Teamsters, the firemen, and the policemen. Solid supporter from day one. Now I guess I get my credentials questioned. Fine. Fine. You want to call me a Republican? You want to call me anti-union? Fine. But the bottom line is this. I have not been given the tools to complete my job, and it's Crown Point that's the choke point. If you guys really want to make a difference, march your butts over to Crown Point and do the same thing you're doing right now, and you actually may make a difference. But you come in here and you act like we're the bad guys. I don't think it's making matters better. I think it's making matters worse.
Anybody else like to speak? Would anybody else like to speak?
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
I'm also speaking as a United Steelworkers of America Local 1010, but I was elected to the 6th District Councilman where I have to make a decision tonight. And here, this is probably one of the biggest times that we have a public hearing. Sometimes we have a public hearing and nobody speaks about the public hearing because nobody knows nothing about it and nobody speaks. But here, all this speaking that we've been doing tonight, and we're still answering a lot of questions. We have the mayor and the chief of staff still answering a lot of questions when we could have just had a meeting, for example. And I'm gonna vote to table. I'm gonna vote this to table this. If it doesn't get tabled.
Order.
And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to table it. Because you have to bargain in good faith. And here's what I would do. And here's what, I mean, we answered enough questions here tonight that we probably could have had a meeting already. We had a request by the that we got in our packet Thursday. We got a request by the local 556 on April 23rd to set up a meeting with you guys. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean with everybody. Maybe at least 3 guys from the, three officers from the firefighters 556. Maybe three FOP, the president, the vice president, all that. We could have done that already. We could have done that already. When you bargain your contract for the next 4 years, it's mostly about money and your health benefits. We're starting to do this right now. Once this passes, if this passes tonight, this is going to be part of your contract because it's law now. This is going to be part of your contract, subject to that there could be a bunch of amendments from here to 2013. There can be negotiations between you guys, the unions, and the administration. Well, we don't like this in there, don't like that in there, we'll sign it if you do that. Then you have to come back and amend this ordinance. Well, we could have very simply, everybody out there knows that we're going to be $9 to $10 million short next year. Everybody knows over here that we're not going to pass, the county is not going to pass the county income tax. Negative. WJOB on the radio said, they polled some people, 70% said they don't want no county income tax. So you can forget about getting $10 million for the city of Hammond through a county income tax. It's going to happen. We have to make reductions. We have to. I realize that. You realize that. The union realizes that, and you're willing to compromise. But you know what? If you're going to compromise, we can start doing this already. We can table this tonight after it comes out because it's supposed to come out for a final passage. We can table this, and we can set a meeting with the FOP, a meeting with the 556, and these are the changes. Look at all the questions that we're asking. We were asking questions back there in the council chambers. We're asking questions here. We're answering questions. I never heard so many questions answered and so many questions coming out. And I'm sure there's thousands more. Maybe not 1,000, maybe a couple hundred. But we can have a meeting. You guys can have a meeting with Tom Daverton. I tried calling, after I had received this letter from the 556, I tried calling the mayor, but he didn't call me back. Tom Daverton's not going to set up a meeting unless he's got the blessing of the mayor. He's not going to do it. But I'm asking, as a councilman, as a citizen of this city, that the chief of staff, it don't have to be the mayor, he can send the chief of staff and Mr. Baker to a meeting with the FOP and the 556, set up a meeting and explain everything. You can answer all your questions. And we can do this by the next meeting. There's no hurry to pass this. They're gonna have meetings. If this passes tonight, they're gonna have meetings for the next 6 months to teach everybody which plan to take. Why can't we take another month, another meeting, another 2 meetings, have a meeting with you guys? I don't see nobody here from the city of Hammond as far as sanitary district. It's all FOP and firefighters. Have a meeting with you guys, not necessarily with the whole body, but have Mr. Daverton, Mr. Baker, have a meeting with you guys, and then they can explain and answer all your questions. Then you can go back to your body and go back to your union in a meeting, an emergency meeting, and explain this is what it's going to be like for retirees. This is what it's going to be like for somebody that's a firefighter and is retired. You guys risked your life. You police and firemen risked your life, especially the retirees, and you deserve to bargain in good faith, and we're not doing that. And I'm not going to vote for something that we're not bargaining in good faith. I will bargain in good faith, and I will vote with good faith on here. And I'm asking my colleagues here, and there's a couple over here that are union employees. I'm asking them to table this. Let's have a meeting. It could be part of your negotiations for your contract. You might even agree. I'm sure you all agree that we have to cut somewhere. We have to raise a little bit here and raise something. We're doing that all the time. But at least let's have a meeting with you guys. Okay? It doesn't have to be with me. Them guys, they're the ones that know it inside out. Mr. Baker and Tom Daverton, even if the mayor don't want to go. But they're the ones that know it. They need to negotiate with you guys. Negotiate and let's get it done.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I just want to say this, is that, in fact, I did receive a letter, and I read it in a couple of council meetings in regards to trying to schedule a meeting, and I thought somehow or another that the mayor and the firefighters union, local 556, would have had a meeting prior to us getting to this point. I don't know why it didn't occur, but I did read the correspondence as well as all my colleagues heard it, and I'm not the president of the council, so I don't know what transpired or whether or not there was a meeting with the president. Did you have a meeting with?
No.
Okay. So all I can say is that the letter was read in council and is a part of the record, so I don't know why the meeting didn't occur, but that's just where I'm at. I just wanted to make that clear that the letter was read in correspondence. So.
Anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Frank Herrera. I've been on the police department for 13 years, and I'll try my best not to be repetitive about what we spoke about. A lot of areas that I want to talk about today have been covered already. I worked in healthcare for 8 years before I became a police officer, and I understand the insurance pretty well. That's why I've been the insurance chairman for about my 4th year, I believe. We have been negotiating with the mayor, like he said, for the last 8 years, okay? There has been compensation for our wanting to tweak our insurance costs. But primarily, I'd like you to focus, if I have anything to say today, is that retiree group. I worked in the United for Seniors side for many years, and that's the group that's gonna be on a fixed income. The level of stress our bodies take, you know, with no regrets, back issues, fights, adrenaline dumps, can only be explained if you've lived in our shoes, okay? So think about the fact that if for some reason we go ahead and we sit down and negotiate and come to something that is livable for the actives, think about that retiree group, those people that are 52 to 64 that are on a fixed income that will not be able to make their daily needs, you know? On the insurance end, I think it's kind of tough to speculate what our costs are going to be. You know, we had 3 of our retired brothers pass within the last month and a half. So it's kind of hard on the insurance side to speculate what our costs are going to be. I have many conversations with the city controller's office reference the costs, the figures of what we've spent in 2004 through current, what those figures are, and I've never been able to actually receive them. And that's a problem. Somebody mentioned there's a gray area in that contract or in the proposal tonight. There is many gray areas. What amendments can come from the proposal tonight? We're unsure. You know, it could be tweaked. I've been told that this is a mimicking of the state plan, which means nothing's set in stone. Those figures that are even being presented tonight can be changed or altered at any point. And I would like to just ask that the retirees be considered, because those are the ones who won't be able to go pick up that side job or do what they need to do to feed their family, all right? And they actually have done their time here, and they should be considered above everybody else.
Mr. President, I just met with 4 city council members earlier today to talk about this issue, and at the conclusion of that meeting, when we talked about the fiscal situation facing the city, we started off with the estimation. Before we started doing some cost-cutting maneuvers, the council and the mayor working together, we were looking at $14 million deficit. And step by step, I went through all the changes we made as a council and a mayor this year, and after all those changes, assuming you guys make the changes that we're requesting in the self-insurance plan, we were still $6 million upside down, optimistically. After the changes. If you don't make those changes, it's 3 more on top of that, which is $10 million upside down, and which means that if we continue to operate like this, we're going to be at the end of the year, and I'm going to come up to the city council and say, we're out of money, we need $10 million of your gaming revenue, and as you all know, the gaming revenue has been taking a big hit lately because Horseshoe Casino has more competition, and with the economy being down the way it is, the amount of gaming revenue coming into the city is less, which means we're taking a bigger percentage of the gaming money that you, Councilman Higgs, and you, Councilman Salinas, and you, Councilman Kowinski, and you, Councilman Emerson, and you, Councilman Opinker, and you, Councilman Hinojosa, use to improve the infrastructure in your district. Who I don't see in here are the residents of your district, Councilman. The residents of your district that aren't going to get their work done because every single year, instead of doing the tough decisions, you decide to side with the easy side and basically just throw gaming money at a problem. And as a result, your district goes unfinished. I don't hear any complaints from residents. I'll be honest with you. The only complaints I got from residents were ones that were pissed that the plan is so lucrative. That's the calls I got. I didn't get one angry phone call from a resident that said, leave it alone. I got it from firemen. I got it from policemen. Residents are calling saying, I can't believe you guys pay so little. I can't believe it. In this day and age, I pay $500 a month, and you guys are paying $12.50? That's what I hear. And I don't see them here right now because they're not losing anything. But they're about to if you guys reconsider. Right now, if you're a Hammond police officer or Hammond fireman, you pay $12.50 a month for your insurance. It's less than 3%. Our coverage is less than 3% of our total cost. $25 a month, excuse me. $12.50 a paycheck, okay? It's less than 3% coverage. We have $12 to $13 million in medical expenses, and 3% of that is covered by the people standing behind me right now. The rest of it's covered by the taxpayers that aren't here. The 99% of the people that aren't in this room right now that you're not paying attention to. That's who we should be protecting as well. We should be talking about them as well, right? Is it fair that you pay $25 a month and Tom Dabberton's family pays $25,000 a month? And how many people like Tom Dabberton are out in Hammond right now, wishing they had the plan we're talking about? The plan we're going to is still going to be better than 99% of our constituents' plans. You're not talking about them, Councilman Hinojosa. I never hear you talk about tough cuts. I hear you talk about popular things, but when we're talking about the nuts and bolts of getting our deficit down, I never hear a peep from you, Councilman, and it continued tonight. Thank you.
I'd just like to make it clear, the FOP standpoint, the mayor just said the numbers. We're not saying the numbers shouldn't go up. We're willing to make those numbers go up, but we're willing to sit down and negotiate those numbers, just not have them come out and propose an ordinance tonight. We're not doing a scare tactic here to anybody. We understand the money has to go up. We're going to negotiate, and we will come up to a conclusion that's best for the city. But we just don't want to push down our throat tonight without our contract. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilman Higgs.
After listening to all of this, what I think I'm hearing is that they want an opportunity to negotiate, and I think that's what I'm hearing. I don't think it's the fact that whether it be voted on tonight or not, the point is that they didn't have an opportunity to clearly get an understanding on how it's going to affect them as well as their families. And I think that's the concern that I'm hearing. I could be wrong, but that's what I think I'm hearing. And it makes me question as to whether or not is this the right decision to make at this point, or do we need to wait another week or two to make sure that all minds and hearts are clear. The reality of it is that I'm not going to sit up here and lie. Being a councilman, I know the reality of it is that we have to increase the insurance. To what level? It's questionable, but it has to be raised. There's no doubt about it. So we can sit here and kid ourselves and go back and forth and act like it's not a problem, but the reality of it is we have to address the issue and we have to do something about it. That's all I can say. Now, whether it be done this week, next week, a month from now, and I can understand. Unionized labor wants an opportunity to voice their opinion and have an opportunity to address their concerns. And it's only fair. I understand that. So that's what I'm hearing. And it's a touch and go issue because no one wants to have to spend more money. But the reality of it is we're in a deficit and we have to address it. And there may be some additional things the mayor may need to do as well, not just the insurance, but there are some programs that may need to be cut out throughout the city. But in reality, the reality is that we have to do something. We're going to have to increase the insurance, but to what level, that's questionable. But what I'm hearing from all the voices that have spoke at the podium is that we haven't had an opportunity to review this. What's the rush? Why can't we get an opportunity to sit down and talk with the mayor, or Mr. Daverton, and have a meeting, and so we can try to work these issues out. So that's where I'm at. What else can I say?
Can I ask Councilman Higgs a question?
Yes.
So basically, I have free reign to discuss whatever options I want with the unions, and whatever we come up with, you have to live with. Is that what you're telling me? Fiscal body of
What
the
I'm
city?
saying, in the prior, you've always negotiated.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
And
So what I'm saying to you, Mayor, as the administrator, and it's your choice. You can handle it however you want. If you don't feel that there's a need to do it, that's fine. What I'm saying is that what I'm hearing is that they want an opportunity to sit down and talk with you. How you take it, it's up to you, how you handle it.
Well, the way I look at it right now is I got a 4-year contract. I'm in year 3 of a 4-year contract. I'm not affecting that contract at all. There's nothing to negotiate in this contract. There isn't. I'm living with the contract. Contract's a contract. I've heard that plenty of times when, in previous years.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Salinas.
That's okay. There's a lot of questions still that need to be answered here. I'm sitting here hearing everybody's concerns, and bottom line is we do need to cut the budget. Bottom line is that we're going to be $13 million in the hole. So what are we going to do about it? We have to look at every avenue. And from what I'm hearing tonight, like Councilman Higgs says, I think 1 or 2 more weeks, and you guys will be satisfied in a faithful negotiation process. And $13 million, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, so what happens if we don't pass this and we just go back to the old in insurance? Okay, so then we're still $13 million in the hole. So what are we going to do? How much more? I mean, are we going to have to put our riverboat money in once again? Which, I don't mind, because, anything to help the city out and the budget. And I don't want nobody to get laid off. And the bottom line is, we just all need to get together, and I'm going to be voting to table this with Chico and Hinojosa too. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
let me acknowledge again that I know there has to be cuts. We have to make cuts. But we first have to look at the two unions and sit down and talk with them. How do you know, Mayor, that they're not willing to sacrifice something because they know we need to do it? And maybe we need to make some adjustments on there, but we have to at least make that opportunity, take that opportunity and sit down with the two unions and answer all the questions. We already been here for going on 2 hours already. We could have had a meeting already and we could have been done already. Then the union and the company go back and say, you know what, this is what we don't like about it. How about if we change that? Oh, that's a good idea. We can do that. It probably wouldn't take too long, but we got to sit down and talk. It's all part of bargaining in good faith. We have to bargain in good faith.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
one more question. Would the mayor be, would he like to ask the council to table this and have Mr. Daverton and Mr. Baker have a meeting with the two unions?
No, I'm calling for the vote.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Hello, my name is Phil Kazaya. I live at 3007 Crane Place. I am a constituent of Mr. Hinojosa. Mr. Hinojosa, you and I don't always see eye to eye about policy and politics. Tonight, I support you and applaud you for your outlook and wanting to table this. A lot of things are being said here about wanting to wait. Okay, that's great. But I think what may have been missed is a lot of our guys want to understand. They want to understand this. We've had learned minds, wider than mine, looking at this, and they're walking away going, what the heck? They would like to understand what this means to everybody. Retired members, I'm going to be there someday. And I would like to take care of them at least as well, if not better, than us who are working the streets now. Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to say that I feel your pain about the increase in your premiums and stuff, but if I was CEO and my base pay was $100,000, I probably wouldn't hurt it so much either. Thank you.
Real short, I'm sorry. When we sat down with the city controller's office, I explained none of this is personal. Obviously, it's personal because it affects our families, okay? So I don't think the hostility is necessarily geared towards a specific individual. But what I asked for in that meeting was clarity, and that's important. We need to understand what the changes are coming about, okay? And everybody's frightened. Everybody's alarmed about it, all right? So now if we get clarity, I'd like to leave you with this. I received four to five phone calls from people who were considering retiring this year, and now they're saying they're not, okay? Do we want 62, 64-year-old patrolmen, people that are not going to retire because they can't afford to retire, okay? Once again, this job, 20, 30 years into it, you know, it takes a lot out of you. You know, I personally came in here with low blood pressure and a head full of hair, and look at me now, all right? I've been on prescription drugs for 2 years for high blood pressure now, okay? So I'm going to throw that out there, all right? So it's not personal, it's business. We understand that. But just think about the fact that our job is to take a toll on us. That's all I'm asking.
Hello, Mr. President, council members. My name is Frank Kolodje. I live in Crown Point, Indiana. I lived in Hammond for 40 years, over 40 years. I've just recently retired last year as a firefighter. I've worked almost 29 years. In my 29 years as a firefighter, I made multiple fire rescues. Any of these men here could tell you what I've done. And I never look back at anything, and I'm very grateful for the career I had, very grateful for the insurance coverage from the city I had. I had a heart attack back in 2004, was off work 5 months. 3 months of that time was my vacation time, so we could talk 5 months, but I was also off with my recoupments. Came back, and from 2004 to when I retired last year, I rescued two city of Hammond residents, and they never asked me if I lived out of town, which I did take very much offense at that comment, or that putting me in a second-class position as an individual and as a firefighter retired. What point I'm trying to get to is the fact that I have severe medical problems. I've been up at Rush, been in North Shore. I'm one of the ones that cost a lot. I really am. And not by choice. A lot of my health issues, they're saying, they can't prove it, but probably due to 30 years of exposure to materials that firefighters are exposed. So any one of us here, and even the police officers know at their job, could be in the same condition I am when they get. I'm 57 years old. Today's my birthday. I chose to be here because this is pertinent to me. It's very important. What you're talking about with some of these changes, I did not hear anything. I had heard prior to this from the great news as waves were passed on to my brothers in the union was they thought it wasn't going to affect us retirees, and I'm in that group that goes from 52 to 65. I can't work full time anymore. I don't know how Social Security will work for me or if even get it. But the issue is I can't work full time anymore because of my health condition. If this is instituted, just my prescription costs are going to go up dramatically, and I am on a fixed income. It's not going to go up anymore. So I wish this would have some more thought involved with this to look at it, because any one of us here could be on this. And we've done our job, and I'm grateful for what I've gotten. I really am. I'm not being ungrateful. But this needs a lot of thought. It really does. And it shouldn't be railroaded and ramrodded down prior to even going in and talking about the next year, before at least the men have an understanding of what this proposal is. And I, till this time, thought it didn't even affect me. I just came here so I can be informed. And I'm sure glad I did, because I found out quite a bit. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. President, I'd like to point out there's been much discussion about Councilman Kowinski's motion to have Hammond residents speak, and I'm not speaking for the councilman, but I'd like to point out that about a year ago we had a meeting much like this one, except for that it was attended by 95% residents from out of the city of Hammond. It was regarding a Munster issue, and the Hammond City Council chambers was packed with Munster residents that basically blocked out Hammond residents, who should be the ones that are speaking in this forum first. And at that time, we felt that it was sort of like a filibuster preventing Hammond residents from speaking. So I imagine that's where Councilman Kowinski was coming from when he motioned for Hammond residents to speak first. I appreciate him recognizing Hammond residents like that personally. And I'd like to point out that a lot of the Hammond policemen and firemen don't live in the city, but we do appreciate the job that they do. They have the state law right to live outside of the city, which is why Hammond firemen and Hammond policemen get something that no other employee gets, which is called a residency bonus, which is $1,800 a year just to live in the city of Hammond. Right now, Hammond firemen is about 20%. Hammond firemen live in the city of Hammond. About 80% live outside of the city. And Hammond Hammond police officers is more like 25 to 30%, 70% to 75% live outside of the city. So keep in mind that, but that is a major issue facing the city of Hammond, and I appreciate Councilman Mark recognizing that. I personally wish 100% of the firemen and 100% of the teachers and 100% of the policemen lived in the city of Hammond, because I think our city would be a better place. And we wouldn't have to worry about things like residency bonuses to entice people to live here. And I'm sure a lot of people that come up here and don't live in the city of Hammond would love to get rid of a program like the College Bound program that's enjoyed by 650 Hammond residents. It's a great program. It's expensive, but it's good for our city. It's good for the housing stock in our city. And if I didn't live in Hammond, I wouldn't give two hoots about it either. But I tell you what, that's a program that's near and dear to the city. It was a commitment made by the city. And I mean, unless you guys are ready to take the wrath of 81,000 constituents, I would suggest you have other plans. So.
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
I have one more short thing. Once upon a time, there was a steel company named LTV. I know a lot of people used to work at LTV. And let's say, for example, they retired with $3,000 a month, going high at today's wages, at today's retirements. So you retire with $3,000, then your company files bankruptcy, and they take 40%. Now, instead of you getting $3,000 a month, you're only getting $1,800 a month. And that's why a lot of the retired firemen are here. Let's say they're getting $3,000, but they don't know what they're gonna have, they don't know what they're gonna have to pay for their insurance. Their union leaders can't 100% answer to them what is it gonna cost you out of your retirement. If you're 63 years old and you're on a cane and you can't walk, are you gonna have to get another job? You wanna know. You wanna know what this is gonna cost you. We need an explanation. You need to understand, we all need to understand, and we need to table this.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
Councilman Hinojosa, I am the wife of one of those LTV retirees. After 37 years, my husband left with zero. Zero. We are in the city of Hammond. It's no secret. We were $15 million upside down. We need to take a look at everything. To the police and fire, you guys are our heroes. You allow us to sleep at night knowing that you are there to protect us. Thank you. From me and every single resident in the city of Hammond, thank you. The last 2 weeks have been most difficult because this ordinance is going to affect the very people who make our city run, from police and fire to sanitation to recycling to the park department. Each and every one of these people are going to be affected. During the past 2 weeks, I've had many conversations with a lot of people. Met with the Wage and Benefit Committee, Councilman Emerson and I. Talked to a lot of employees that are not police and fire. Talked to a lot of residents. And I've got to tell you guys, there is not much sympathy out there from the residents for the plan that we as Hammond employees have. I have heard comments like, who do they think they are? And they had better get a grip, because it's not like that out in the real world. We've had it good for a long time. I'm all in favor of the bargaining powers. That's what this region was built on. But we have to take a practical look here. I was voted into office by the residents of the city of Hammond. They have asked me to vote, look at issues that will affect them. How does it affect them? Now, these 1, 2, 3 tax caps that have been put into place, look in the room. 3 out of 4 people. 3 out of 4 people voted for the tax caps. And now we have to deal with the consequences. We must, in order to keep the employees of the city of Hammond, including police and fire, employed and insured, we have to take a look at things. So I know what I'm saying isn't very popular, but it is the truth of the matter. We have to take a look at where we can save money. I've heard things like, boy, Councilwoman Vines voted for you last time, but it sure isn't going to happen again. I heard the rumblings. I heard, you're being taken advantage of because you're new to the council. I can tell when something is upside down. I can tell when it is. So I understand where each and every one of you are coming from. Thank you all for your service, and I just hope you can appreciate the position that we're in. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Mr. President.
Councilman Spitali.
I have a few things to say. Do these gentlemen want to speak first? And I can speak? I will tell you up front, those who know me, we do have a kick-ass fire department and police department. I don't care what anybody says, where you live at, you guys are just great. Makes no difference to me on that. You probably don't want to hear my story, but it's short. I am a retiree, a local 1010 in Inland Steel. I was there 31 years working shift work, and I risked my life too, not like you do, but I was in a power plant and there was a lot of problems there. When I walked out the door after my 31st year, I was handed a book, and this was back in 1997, not modern day. It said, "Don't call me anymore. You're not a member here. Answer what's in this book right here." I have to call Chicago to find out what my insurance was. I walked out of there with that many years with no dental, no eye, and a change of doctors. I know you don't want to hear what I'm going to say, but I wish I had the opportunity to one of these three plans that I could keep those people, because now I pay out of my pocket for what I have to do for my eye and my dental. If we, Hammond, remain on a decentralized insurance plan, the long-term effects could and will be far greater than the current increase that we have right now. I understand where you're coming from, I really do. And again, you guys are the greatest. But I was voted in here also from the people of Hammond, to do what I hope and think is right. And that'll be my decision this evening. Thank you.
Greg Johns, Hammond firefighter, Hammond resident. I just wanted to point out that we chose the professions to get into. We chose to be a police officer. We chose to be a firefighter. But on our uniforms, it doesn't say New York firefighter or New York police officer or Chicago police officer or Chicago firefighter. Our uniforms say Hammond. We chose to work for the city. We went through the process to get on, to be a part of the city. Now, I know there's issues with all the insurance claims and that, but how much was looked at of, work-related injuries on the job? I'm not trying to ask for preferential treatment, but look at all where the injuries came from. What was involved? Was it on fire? Or was it struggling to, catch a thief or slow down a speeder or whatnot? But just ask the council before you make any decisions, to give us, a common courtesy for the jobs of protecting the city and put our lives on the line. I was on a fire, and it was on Lake Street, and what a lot of people don't understand is, when we go, people are screaming, there's children upstairs or something. We don't, sit there and wonder. We act. That's what we do. That's what we were trained for. That's what we have in our hearts. And we chose these jobs because that's what we want to do. We want to support our city, and that's the job that we chose, being a police officer or a firefighter. So just with us putting our lives on the line, we just ask you to take more time to consider before you jump to any conclusions on deciding what insurance rates to go with to save money. Did you look at the whole big picture? That's just what I want to bring up.
Mr. President, I just want to clarify, the gentleman that spoke, this has no impact whatsoever on worker comp. okay? Any job-related injuries or illnesses are covered by worker compensation. It is not part of the insurance plan whatsoever. State law dictates that as an employer in the state of Indiana, we're responsible for 100% of those costs, and that will continue. This has no impact on worker comp.
Councilman Spitali.
Mayor?
Sorry about that. I thought you said mayor.
No, sorry. My question to you is, if this is passed this evening, there is a guarantee that all these folks out here and the others will be educated with these programs that they pick.
Councilman, we
They get to
planned
choose.
all along, once the final version was finalized, that's where our efforts were going to go for the next 6 months, is educating the employees on the 3 different plans, which plan would be best for them, and answering any questions they may have. So that was always the plan. It's, do we approach the employees with an unfinished product, or do we approach the employees with a finished product? We chose to approach the employees with a finished product, A. B, I'm in the middle of negotiation. I'm in the middle of contracts right now. Like, we're not affecting the current contract, which means there's no reason to negotiate with the unions regarding the current contract, because we're not affecting the current contract, which is why we haven't negotiated with police and fire union, nor the Teamsters, nor do we plan to until later in the year. There's no need. We have a current contract. And quite frankly, our financial picture is so unstable right now with the lack of a local option income tax and the frozen tax levy and the property tax caps and the low collection rate, that to just punt this down the road and to keep delaying, as a couple councilmen have indicated, is irresponsible in my opinion.
These classes will start immediately, being it's so fresh in everybody's mind, so down the line they might forget something. When will they begin?
ASAP. I mean, if the council passes the ordinance, and once it's signed into law, and once we know, we plan, and we talked to Mr. Baker and Laura about going around and having multiple sessions with employees at different times, realizing that some police officers are working shifts and they can't attend during normal daytime hours, and some firemen will be on duty and they can't attend during normal daytime hours. So we were going to stagger it so that we would do these training sessions in multiple shifts and multiple times to make it so that every single employee that makes a reasonable effort could attend one of them. So, and myself, I was planning on attending. My chief of staff is an expert in this line of work, as well as my city controller, Bob Lendy, my city controller, Chris Cantar, and Dave Baker, and his assistant, Laura. We all plan on doing a presentation to the employees, but this plan has already changed once. If I had an employee say a week ago, a meeting with the employees a week ago, and then we changed the plan, then I have to go back and talk to the employees about the changes again, or do we just take care of it between the council and the mayor? After all, you are the fiscal body of the city. You make the fiscal decisions in the city. So am I wrong to approach the fiscal body and say, give me some guidance? And quite frankly, can I approach the council on the raise issue? That's a great question. I need guidance. I'm about to negotiate 4-year deals. If I believe some of the argument I've heard today, you have no input whatsoever into that? You can't give me guidance on pay raises over the next 4 years? I'd like some guidance. I'd like some guidance from the council. I'm about to enter into 4-year deals with police, fire, and Teamsters. Give me some guidance. Where do you guys think? Should I offer 1% a year, 2% a year, 3% a year, 4% a year? How much do I offer, guys? But I guess you guys can't insert yourself into that, right, Councilman Hinojosa? That's ludicrous. You guys are the fiscal body of the city. You have every right to insert yourself into this. And that's what I'm asking. Insert yourself into this debate, or kick the can down the road and blame the mayor. It's up to you. Believe me, you think I want to look at these guys in the face? I've been on pretty good terms with most of the people standing behind me right now. I've done a great job trying to forge friendships and alliances, and I've been respectful, and it's all shattered because why? Because I'm a mean guy and I don't like them? No. It's shattered because our state, as Councilwoman Vanez pointed out, by 75% to 25% margin passed tax caps and put them in our Constitution. That limited us $14, $15 million every year in itself. Our county council and our county commissioners have failed. We're the only county in the state that has failed to adopt a local option income tax. And because of that, our Republican governor froze our levies at the 2005 levels. Am I the bad guy? Who's the bad guy here? Is it right to direct your anger at Mayor McDermott or at the council? Or should we direct our anger where it really belongs? It's the county. It's the state. That's why we're standing here dealing with these issues. Because the county council and the county commissioners have failed to do their jobs, and the state of Indiana has capped our income. It's not because I don't like police officers. I don't respect police officers. Not because I don't like firemen. I don't respect firemen. I tremendously respect both. As I respect street department, sanitation department, my workers, your workers, everybody has an important role in here. Everybody has an important role. All right? I respect the people standing behind me greatly. I feel horrible about the position that I'm in, and the council saying, we don't think we belong in this debate. Okay, I think you belong 100% in this debate, and that's why I'm asking for your help. If you guys want to kick the can and play politics, Chico, good job. You got a lot of applause.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question. In the past two contracts with the police and fire, I've never been asked to be on the negotiating table. And I ask you a question, Ralph. If this gets tabled tonight, since it gets tabled, it's going to prolong for at least another 2 more weeks. Then, would you let Mr. Baker and Mr. Daverton speak to the unions?
I don't see any reason to speak to the
Yes
unions in
or
terms.
no?
I'm answering your question.
No need.
You're going to take control
No.
of the meeting, Mr.
All I
President?
need to know.
Mr. President.
Can I answer the question?
You got the floor, Mayor.
Thank you. No. There's no final product right now. Once we get a final product, I'll approach the employees and tell them what the final product is. Who's in charge of that, Councilman? It's the fiscal body of the city that passes the ordinance and the mayor that signs them. You have an ordinance before you. If you don't want to vote on it, Councilman, I don't blame you, because it's not an easy thing to vote on. You want to play politics like you're doing? Great job. You're doing a great job at it, okay? You're doing a great job. Congratulations. I'm taking care of a problem. I'm doing my job as a leader. You want to play politics? Go ahead, Chico.
Mr. President?
Okay, just to let everybody know out there, if you spoke once, you're not going to be speaking again. We will be here all night. Councilman
Can I speak, Mr. President?
Hinojosa?
I'm glad I'm allowed to speak, but these people need to they need to understand what we have here, Mayor. They need to understand it.
I agree with you.
And you know what? If this gets tabled 4-4, if it's a 4-4 vote and it gets tabled and it doesn't pass, give the opportunity. I mean, that's not saying that the union is not going to agree. That they know we got to make cuts. They know it, just like I know it and you know it. We have to make some cuts, but let's talk about it. Let these firemen that are retired know what's going to happen to them. What is it going to cost them out of their retirement?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Councilman Hinojosa, have we met with you about this?
Say it again?
Have we met with you about this?
One time.
One
The last
time?
time I tried to call you to set up a meeting, you didn't call me back.
Okay. Do you understand what we talked about?
I know what you're talking about.
Good. Why don't you approach him?
I don't know it. as
Mr.
good as-
President.
I don't know it as good as
Councilman
Mr.
Higgs.
Baker or Mr.
Well, I just want to say this, that I know, being on the council at least twice, that this councilman has given up casino dollars to offset the budget. So in no form or fashion, it's not a political issue for me, it's the right issue, and the thing is just trying to do the right thing. So,
Councilman, at the end of this year, you're going to give up at least another 8 or 9 million. And if we don't fix the problem, the year after that, you'll give up another 8 or 9 million.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I am aware of the issue. I've already stated that, and you know where I stand. And I've stated it to you,
I know.
and I'm stating it to the world and to the public and to whoever's here and whatever. The reality of it is that there's a need to do some cuts.
Thank you, Councilman. I agree.
Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, if we have to, you're saying we might have to put up another 8 or million this year for 2013?
Councilman Hinojosa,
2012?
at the end of the cutting, assuming you guys pass what we're asking you to pass, we're still 6 million short. Conservatively.
This year in 2012?
Conservatively, yes.
This year in 2012?
Yes.
But yet, we didn't cut nothing on the Festival of Lakes. In fact, they added another Hispanic band on supposedly Hispanic. If we're going to use casino money, if we're going to have to use another 6 million casino money, I got 742,000 that I'm putting on the street project. That puts me, after that, at zero. Where are we going to get 6 million? We're going to have to take it from next year, right?
Yeah.
Right? So now we're going to put up 6 million from this year for next year, plus another 10 million. That's probably the entire casino money. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
You know what? I agree. We have to make some cuts, but they need an understanding and they need to be talked to. You don't have to talk to them. Send Mr. Daverton and Mr. Baker to go talk to them, and we could be done in 2 weeks. And then I bet you, they know, because they know, I bet you they would be willing to negotiate and put that in, as part of their contract. But let's have a little respect and bargain in good faith.
Order. Mr. President.
Councilman Higgs.
And in saying all that, I mean, I understand what's being said, But the reality of it is, we have to do some cuts. We might as well not play with ourselves and beat around the bush. And knowing this, we have to deal with the issues that's set before us. Now, whether it be this week, next week, 3 weeks from now, that's fine. If that's what it takes for everybody's mind to be clear and to get a clear understanding, I don't have a problem with that. But I know as a councilman, I've done my part in doing the research. I know I've done my part in giving up funds out of my district to offset the budget so that no fireman or no policeman was ever laid off under my leadership as a councilman. So I've done my part. So I don't know where all this political rhetoric is coming from back and forth, but the reality of it is there are some additional things, and not just in insurance, but there are some other areas that are going to have to be looked at closely.
Like
what? For instance, some of these not-for-profit organizations, they're going to have to be cut.
Like what?
You want me to go down the list?
Yes.
Next meeting. Is this public hearing or is this a debate? Here. Seems like we're having a debate, Mr. President. Here. Chief, we can't do that much.
Go ahead, Councilman Higgs.
I don't want to sit up here and hold the meeting up, but the reality of it is there are a number of organizations we need to cut, whether it be 5,000, 10,000, and there's no need to go back and forth about the issue. You know, everything is important, and everybody has a need. And the reality of it is we're going to have to tighten up our belt. When there's an issue in your home and you have a certain amount of money and you're on a budget, and you know you got to pay NIPSCO and your house note, what do? You cut back. It's just reality. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to sit up here and debate the issue. I could go on, but there's no need to, because the reality of it is I know the situation. A lot of people in the room know the situation, and like I stated previously, I think they need a clear understanding on how this is going to affect their lives after today. That's it.
Anything else?
Anybody else like to speak? Sir in the back's been waiting.
Thank you, Mr. President. Robert and Bork, retired Hammond police officer. Let me try to get this straight. 2 weeks ago, we were here and you people passed an ordinance by first and second reading. And I'm going to refer to that as the state plan. Within that 2-week period, the administration is now presented another proposal. What the hell are you voting on? What is the package that we're discussing right now? Is it what's here for first and second reading, or is it the new proposal?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
what will happen is that it will be amended in
Well,
the new proposal.
okay. Okay, that's satisfactory. But this kind of like is deja vu of what the United States House of Representatives did many years ago with the Obama package and our illustrious leader from California, Nancy Pelosi. Let's pass it and see what's in it. How stupid can that be?
Mr. President, we were just questioning Democratic credentials earlier. I'd like to point out the President of the United States plan, I think, addressed a very serious need in America, which is the fact that probably 50% of Americans are uninsured and would love to have the opportunities that we're presenting to as an alternative. There's probably 90% of Hammond residents that would jump at this alternative in a hot second. This is better. The alternative that we're offering is better than the coverage our constituents will get, probably 95% of them.
Mr. President.
Better than 95% of Hammond residents. And we're fighting about it and questioning it. And our medical bills cost $13 million a year, and our prescription drugs alone cost $3 million a year. And we're talking about whether or not we need to do it.
Mr. President.
Councilman Higgs.
The first plan I wasn't going to vote for at all. No question about it. The first one was zero.
Anyone else like to speak?
Mr. President.
Councilman Emerson.
You know, I had some concerns about the first plan too, even though we put it together when I started doing some research on my own. And, you know, we did meet with, Councilwoman and I met with the police. And when we came out with the new PPO, you know, I talked about my own insurance. And this mirrors what I have right now, which is really good. And when I started feeling good about that, I talked to the insurance lady, and she said, well, don't feel too good, because yours is going up next year, too. So my point is, this PPO option, I don't think it gets much better than that. And so when I was told ours is going up next year, and if you look around, you can see layoffs. Just pick up the paper today, you can see projected layoffs in education. And that's all part, I believe, of the 1, 2, 3 cap coming back to bite us. It's like, as I said before, it's like a vice, and the vice is tightening. And we have to do something. I understand the concerns. I have nothing against the police or fire at all. I wanted to be a cop when I got out of the Army. Was actually on the list. So it's not personal. It's we are, as has been said many times tonight, 15 million, and the estimates continue underwater. So that's all I have to say on it.
Councilwoman Venez, you said that your constituents elected you to make hard decisions and informed decisions about the status of the city of Hammond. Can you tell me the maximum out of pocket for the PPO plan for a family and in this proposed thing without looking?
Without looking,
Yeah.
I want to say it's $5,000.
You're excellent. That's good. And I'd also like to applaud Councilman Hinojosa for bringing up the elephant in the room, which is the Festival of the Lakes. Thank you.
Mr. President, I appreciate the free advertisement we're getting for the Festival of the Lakes, and I'd like to point out that I just got done running for re-election last year, and a lot of Hammond residents that aren't in here right now that actually showed up on election day to vote. This is a big issue against me. The Republicans were using it in a big way about the Festival of the Lakes, and if I was elected mayor, the first thing I'd do would get rid of the Festival of the Lakes, the free concerts. I'd go as soon as I took over, and I got 81% of the vote. I got 75% of the vote in the primary. I think if that was an issue, the voters would have taken care of that for me. But then again, we're in a room filled with mostly out-of-towners, so maybe they don't like it as much as the Hammond residents do, so.
Anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Ken Stump, and I'm from Crown Point. I moved to Hammond when I was 4 years old in 1956. Went to school here, went to 3 years of college here, bought a house on Alexander. Then I married a lady with 4 children. Due to my job, the people that I put in jail, I'm a detective, I work felony cases. The people I put in jail for long periods of time, their aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, go to schools in the city of Hammond. I will not subject my children to that. There's going to be a built-in bias from those people when they know I'm their stepfather. I moved. For my kids, I'd do anything.
Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Number 6, communications.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I would like to acknowledge the fact that on next Tuesday at 3 o'clock at Maywood Elementary School, Safari Brainwear, along with Councilman Higgs and Smith, Brazil, and Warner Funeral Home, will be holding a reception to see the test results from the elementary students at Maywood. That's going to be at 3 p.m. And come on out have some refreshments, and we're going to honor those students that completed the 12-week after-school tutoring program with Safari Brandware.
Any more communications? Any more communications?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
the boosters invite you to attend the 12th annual awards celebration in honor of the Team Hammond Robotics, Thursday the 20th of June 2012 at 6:30 in the evening at Dynasty Banquet, 4125 Calumet Avenue, Hammond. Dinner and presentation, attire, dressy, Sunday best. Tickets may be purchased at $20 each. Children under 12 will be $10. RSVP by June 1st, 2012. D. Jones, 219-902-2159 or 219-933-2467, extension 5503 or djones71@gmail.com.
Any other communications? Any other communications? Communications is now closed. Number 7, committee reports.
Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
council as a whole will be bringing out 1229, 1230, 1231, and 1232.
Is that 1231 is amended?
That'll be approached during discussion.
Okay. Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Committee reports is now closed. Number 8, ordinance, third and final reading.
$12.29, an ordinance amending ordinance number 8878, also known as section 32.42 of the Hammond Municipal Code, pertaining to the administrative fee for salvage title checks by Hammond Police.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
on this ordinance, the fee would be increased, I believe, and for final passage on this also, third and final passage.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Kowinski. Is there any discussion?
Call for the vote.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vaz.
I would just like to point out that this is an increase in the fee from $25 to $100.
Any other discussion? Carmen, roll call vote.
Markovich. Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Hinojosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes. Ordinance passes 8-0, 1 absent.
$12.30, an ordinance amending Chapter 93 of the Hammond Municipal Code as it pertains to reimbursement to the City of Hammond for medical transport costs of those in confinement in the Hammond City Jail.
President, third and final,
Councilman Spitali.
1230 for third and final.
It's a motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Kowinski. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on ordinance 1230? Carmen, roll call vote.
Markovich. Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
Higgs,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Hinojosa,
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes. Ordinance passes 8-0, one absent.
$12.31, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5001, 7056, 7057, 7789, 8223, 8389, 8817, 8818, also known as Section 37.029 of the Hammond Municipal Code, as it pertains to health insurance benefits for all City of Hammond employees.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move for final passage of that 12-31.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move to amend 12-31 in its entirety with 12-31A.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski to amend 1231A, second by Councilman Emerson. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
the amended version reflects the change from the state's PPO plan to the new plan that was recently presented by the city administration.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
because there's still a lot of people in the audience that are not educated enough and don't understand enough of this plan, and the administration has failed to bargain in good faith with the police and fire unions, which could be done in a couple weeks. I'd like to make a motion to table 1231-A.
It's been motioned by Councilman Hinojosa to table 31A. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilman Salinas. Any discussion?
There's no discussion. Point of order on table.
Carmen, roll call vote.
Markovich. Spitali.
No.
Vines.
No.
Kalwinski.
No.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
No.
Hinojosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
No. Motion, amendment fails 5-4, or 5-3, one absent.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
vote on the amended version, please.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali to vote on 1231 as amended. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I waited till now to speak because the public hearing really was for the people on that side of the rail. A difficult topic, very eloquently presented by both sides of the argument. Tough decision, unpopular for the people in this room, very popular for a lot of the residents when you speak to them one-on-one. And I'm for not kicking the can down the road. And when I think about my legacy, I'll think about it in helping Hammond turn the corner. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Carmen, roll call vote. 1231A as amended.
I think you have to vote to amend 31 to 31A.
That's what we're doing. That's what we did. We're voting on the amendment.
Okay. All right, we're voting on the amendment, 1231A. 31A as amended.
Markovich. Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
No.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Hinojosa.
No.
Opinker.
Yes. Ordinance 1231A passes 5-3, 1 absent. As amended.
Now, final passage.
Now final passage of 531. A. You just-
Markovich. Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
No.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Hinojosa.
No.
Opinker.
Yes. 1231A passes 5-3, 1 absent. Motion to recess.
Second.
Second by Councilman Spitali.
Somebody gave him that shirt when they took him to the game, that's what it is.
We have 5 present.
Go.
Number 9, introduction of ordinances. Oh. Motion to go back to regular order of business.
Second.
Second by Councilman Hinojosa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Regular order of business.
1232, an ordinance for persons appointed by the Common Council to submit reports to the Common Council.
President,
Councilman Higgs.
make a motion that we pass 1232 on this third and final reading. That's so moved.
Motion by Councilman Higgs to pass 1232. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Salinas. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
don't we receive minutes for these committees? I don't understand why we need the council member who attends the meeting or who's on the committee to submit a report when we have in-depth minutes.
Mr. President?
Councilman Higgs.
We do receive correspondence from the committees. What it is those that are appointed by us, this body, just to quarterly give us an oral discussion on what's going on. I don't see a problem with it. You know, that's basically what it is, just to, you know, and give us an update on what's going on. That's our appointees, not the mayor's appointees, just the council appointees.
Any other discussion? Carmen, roll call.
Oops, sorry.
Councilman Emerson.
It just seems to me that if the council appointed them and they're on a standing committee, that the results of what's going on in that committee would be in the paperwork we receive. So having them, if this means present at the council meeting, and I'm not sure that that's necessary.
Any other discussion? Carmen, roll call vote. 1232.
Markovich. Spitali.
No.
Vines.
No.
Kelwinski.
No.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
No.
Hinojosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
No. Motion fails 5-3, 1 absent. That concludes final passes of the ordinances. Number 9, introduction of ordinances.
$12.33, an ordinance to appropriate funds in the Hotel Motel Innkeepers Tax Fund for the Hammond Park Department.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 12-33 move through first and second reading and have a public hearing set on June 25th and go into council as a whole.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali. First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
$12.34, an ordinance amending ordinance numbers 7598, 8348, and 8753, also known as Section 93.005 of the Hammond Municipal Code pertaining to ambulance users' fees to include loaded mileage.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 12-34 pass through first and second reading and be referred to council as a whole.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
$12.35, an ordinance establishing nepotism policy and contracting policy as required by Indiana House Enrolled Act 1005.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 12-35 move through first and second reading and be referred to council as a whole.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That ends the introduction of ordinances. Number 10, resolutions, there are none. Number 11, new and unfinished business.
Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I wish to take a moment to thank the Hammond Mohawks Athletic and Conservation Club for again sponsoring the North Hammond Memorial Day Parade. This past Monday was a huge success. We had many participants, and even though it was the hottest Memorial Day on record, people did come to it, and especially congregated at St. Caz afterwards for the memorial service. To everyone, I say thank you.
Any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I would like to announce the meeting of Edison Community Watch coming up on Wednesday, June 6th. Their guest speaker will be Bernard Carter. It's at Edison School. Given some of the activity that's occurred in that neighborhood this past week, I urge all of the residents to come out and have their concerns heard. Thank you.
Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is now closed.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
make a motion to we adjourn from this meeting. Oh,
Public expression.
I think the public's gone.
Actually, they're not.
Just come one at a time. What the hell?
Come on up, my brother.
Come on.
Go right ahead.
Okay, the first speaker here is Paul Maldonado.
They all done.
They all gone.
Paul's gone. Alvin Cheeks.
Good.
Good afternoon. My name is Alvin Cheeks. I reside at 832 Merrill Street. I have a son named Alvino Giovanni Cheeks. Well, we're here today. I'm going to hear for my son and other little kids that are going to be riding their bikes and already started. At the Mayor's Night Out, I brought up a document that exists in regards to trees that the Parks Department and the Street Department had to take care of. One of the Street Department personnel said that there was no document that exists other than the one that Mrs. Platali put forward. But in fact, there's a document that was created in 1997 that says there's an order that exists in the city ordinance from 1997 that gives the street department and the fire department the authorization to take down a dangerous tree. This tree has peaked about 5 more angles. That means that the tree started in an upright position and now it's leaning all the way over to the street. The only reason why I constantly bring up this tree is that the tree is close to a park. It's approximately 1.5 blocks away from a park. And the fact that there's 2 city ordinances, not one, that make the responsibility of this council to take down those trees. So that's why I keep talking about a tree. And there's also a part in both of the documents that say once more than one person says that a tree is a nuisance, then the city and its council has the obligation to take that nuisance tree down. And I did go before the court to have the documents time sealed, proving that the old archive document did exist and it wasn't a document that I brought forth. So thank you, and I did provide it to Councilman Higgs and to the council, the old ordinance from 1997 that gives the street department and the mayor the authorization to take a dangerous tree down on private property. So I would hope that this council takes that tree down, being the fact that it's leaning onto a public street and it's gonna hurt a kid or older residents or take out a couple of houses. So I did leave it for the council, and I would hope that with 2 ordinances, I understand we under a restraint in terms of dollars, but a tree like that is only $800, and why not just take it down and keep it from falling on someone's residence? So I would hope that this council takes that forward. Thank you.
George Stoya. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by
Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Hinojosa, second by Councilwoman Vines. All those in favor? Opposed?